Hello and welcome to Widnes Rugby Chat, episode 3 of 2025. The championship season is here. Widnes kick off this weekend away in France, taking on Toulouse. With that in mind, we've got a guest on this week, Steve Brady, otherwise known as Catalan Media. He's got his finger on the pulse, all things French Rugby League. He'll be giving us some insight on Toulouse and what's going on with them in France this season. That'll be later on in the episode. But before then, myself and Mike are going to look ahead to the game against Toulouse, but also look ahead to the wider championship season. Widnes entering the season having reached the playoffs last year. And Mike, I think playoffs would have to be the minimum aim for 2025.
Yeah, as much as it gets difficult every single year, that's progression, isn't it? And as a head coach, as a squad, as professional rugby players, even as fans, that's what you strive for, isn't it? Whether it's small or big steps forward, you want to see improvements in performances, and certainly try and finish as high up in the league table as possible, and hopefully go on a little bit of a cup run.
We've alluded to it, I think, already in this season's podcasts about how competitive the championship's likely to be this year. There's probably not a standout club as there has been in recent years. You've always had your Wakefield last year, you've had Lee in previous seasons, Toulouse, Featherstone. Whereas this year, it feels like it's probably tough to call between 6, 7, maybe even more teams at the top. Bradford pinching a bit of headlines at the moment. They beat Super League's Castleford last week in the Challenge Cup. There's a little bit of noise about them potentially gearing up for a return to Super League if Salford's situation continues to rumble on, although it doesn't appear that will be the case. Do you feel like that's a fair assessment? Is it a tough one to call? Who's your money on this year?
I've got a clear top three. In fairness, I think if I'm pushed, I'd say Bradford are the odds-on favourites to to finish top, and quite rightly so. The money that they've spent, they've had a pre-season scalp over Huddersfield, looked really convincing in that game, and then obviously got the Challenge Cup victory over Castleford Tigers and raced into a 17-0 lead. You look at the Odsal pitch and the recruitment that they've done, the size in the back division with players like Jaden Ockenbaugh, Guy Armitage, you've got George Tafua there, Walker Blake, and then obviously the monster pack that they have anyway with like Franklin Pele, Emmanuel Wayne. So it's very difficult to turn them over at Odsal, and I think they've strengthened. So I think they're the favourites, and I think second and third, I feel Featherstone will be a different proposition this year. I've got them in second because I was looking at the back division, and they've got Caleb Aikins, Daryl Alford, Carlos Tumavave, Jaden Hatton, Gareth Gale, Ben Reynolds. It's a star-studded backline, and then I think close on the tail of York. I think the way they finished last season, only losing 10 points in the playoff semi-final against Wakefield, was an unbelievable achievement. I think Mark Applegarth did an outstanding job. I think he was by far, for me, the coach of the year. And I think he was by far the most complete side other than Wakefield I seen last year. I think the halfbacks, Liam Harris and Atteragano, absolutely fantastic, real generals, especially Atta's kicking game as well, especially, and his defence is ferocious for a halfback. They've got the backs and a really fit and physical forward pack with plenty of depth to spare. So I think them three sides will be leading the way for me at the top.
They've brought in Paul McShane over the off season as well, so it'd be interesting to see how he goes in the championship this season. We're going to talk a bit more about Toulouse later. Toulouse will, you would think, be one of them teams in the top 6. It has been confirmed that the playoffs will be top 6. There was noise. There was a proposal in the off season to extend it to a top 8, which I think will end up being the case next season. But this season, it's going to be the usual top 6, and then the bottom the bottom 4 in the Championship will then go in a mini Super 8s competition with the top 4 from the Championship to determine the makeup of the Championship next season. There's going to be 12 teams in the Championship next season. Obviously, Widnes will be hoping that they're not embroiled in any of that. It's funny you say about Featherstone, because I didn't even have Featherstone in my top 6. So perhaps that goes to show how that goes to show how competitive the Championship will be. I think Sheffield will go well. I think Craig Lingard's an excellent coach. I think although they've not recruited, they've lost a few players, but I think they've brought in some shrewd signings as well. I suppose Oldham's the one where a lot of people are talking about Oldham. They appear to be spending a decent amount of money, and they've got plenty of ex-Widnes players in there. But it's whether, there's a lot of older players in there, and are they going to be able to... Last season, yeah, they won League One, but with all due respect to some of the teams in League One, they're basically having a week off every other week, whereas in Championship, every game is going to be tough for them. I still fancy Oldham to reach the playoffs, though, is I think what I went with in the end.
Yeah, I think they'll be there or thereabouts. I think through experience at Widnes, the reason why I put them in 7th when I was writing my little list out, and the reason why I did that was, of course, look, if everything clicks there, they've got everything to be, even a top 4 team. The players that they've recruited, players like Ian Thornley, Gil Dudson, Ashurst, and then you've got players like Jordan Turner, who was there last year, Elijah Taylor, and then obviously the Widnes contingents, we know are really good players also. And to, make our squad bigger this year, you take a couple of them back, to be in and around the team and, push for a starting place. But the reason why I had them that low down was similar to what you said. James is stepping up from League One. Let's see how you do when, you play Batley away, and then you've got to go Featherstone, and then you've got Widnes coming to town, and you've got to fly to Toulouse and back. And also through the experience of obviously supporting Widnes, we've had these big name Super League signings who have, been ready to step down to part-time rugby league. And I don't think you can quite prepare yourself until you chuck yourself in it. I don't think a lot of players realise, the quality of player in the Championship and, the physicality of it. And I think when you lose the professional, you don't, the professional conditioning and strength and conditioning and, dieting and stuff like that, that's no longer there anymore. You've got to do a lot yourself. So I think that's a big impact. And also, the lads, in all respect to them, who left Widnes for Oldham, Kieran Dixon, Danny Craven, Owen Farnworth, Adam Lawton, as good a players they are as individuals, they never ever did it at Widnes. We never made the playoffs at Widnes, and there's a lot of them there. So that's the reason why I put them there. I think they'll be one of them sides that it wouldn't surprise me if they played Featherstone at home and beat them, but then they might go away to Batley and then not be able to back it up.
Yeah. I think it's going to be an interesting one. And as you say, I think looking through some of the recruitments, we'll just go through some of the players that teams have brought in. I mentioned Sheffield. I really like Corey Johnson, the hooker that they've brought in. They've also got Reece Butterworth, who's played a lot at this level. Morgan Smith they brought in as well. Featherstone have actually got Jordan Williams, who had that, what did he play, 15 minutes for Widnes last season, I think, the forward from London. Jacob Jones, another player who played a bit for Widnes, he's at Doncaster. Hunslet have signed Greg Eden. Hunslet, of course, newly promoted. And Halifax have got Kyle Eastman as coach, but they're very thin on numbers. I think they announced 20 in their squad. Obviously, they're going to be reliant on dual reg and bits and bobs like that. But I suppose the underlying thing is, we get lost in the IMG talk all the time and stuff like that. But the bottom line is, when you it's all about rugby, what goes on the pitch. And by the looks of it, the championship this season's tough to call. As you say, I'm probably with you. I think Bradford and York, perhaps the two that jump to mind. But you could sort of, it's going to be hard to call, maybe with the exception of perhaps Hunslet and Batley, maybe. The other teams involved, you're going to look at each game and struggle to pick a winner.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the championship is criminally underrated in, the rugby league world. It's certainly, not having a broadcast deal, I think it is a crying shame. And I think you're going to see it go to the bitter end once again. And, talk about, that bottom four, the teams I've got in that, Batley, Barrow, London and Hunslet, League One is probably as strong as it's been in a very long time as well. So when that break off and split comes, the fun doesn't end with the regular season. You've got it all to come again, and you really, like you say, it's a toss of a coin for quite a lot of games. And when you split the division off, how it's going to get even closer. It's going to be, I think, it's going to be a fantastic end to the championship.
Yeah, so we'll see how the season pans out. Interesting, London Broncos have signed Zach Bardsley-Rowe and Jake Thulis on loan from Warrington. I noticed that they've both been given squad numbers as well by London Broncos, which suggests that they might be there longer than, I think they announced it 2 weeks initially. A little bit of a surprise with Bardsley-Rowe, maybe, given I think he played 10 times for Widnes last season. Did we think maybe he might be someone that you'd see at Widnes on dual reg this season a bit more?
Certainly a couple of weeks ago I did, and going into the game on Saturday, we couldn't. I suppose you couldn't anticipate Jack Owens was going to get injured. I know he's been named in the squad, but I'd be very surprised if he turned out at fullback. That probably means Matty Fleming's the obvious candidate to drop to fullback, given he did, against the Crusaders on Sunday. That'd have been the ideal slot for Zach to come in, but maybe that deal was already done and the agreement was already in place before the weekend for him to head down to London. But I've got to be honest, when I watched the pre-season friendly against Warrington, I was watching him very closely, and out of the Warrington players that was there, I wouldn't say he particularly jumped out. And, Adam Jones, I wanted him to get a bit of game time against Rochdale or, Crusaders. I thought he had a very good half of rugby in that Warrington game. So maybe there's a bit of faith there being shown by Alan and he'll get the nod because he's been listed in the initial squad, so we could potentially see him play there.
You mentioned the Crusaders game there. I wasn't at the game against Crusaders. I was at a christening, unfortunately. Widnes got there in the end, 26-20. Obviously, I was following it from afar. I think Widnes kept North Wales Crusaders scoreless in the second half. Was it as tough as the scoreline suggested, Mike?
First half, definitely. I think Alan spoke quite well after the game, but, being a fan and reading between the lines, I don't think he'd have been very happy with that first half performance. It was under par and it was sloppy at times. The main message from that first half going over to Toulouse is quite simply, these individual errors have got to stop. And really what happened was we was giving cheap ball away, and the biggest concern was in that first half, every time the Crusaders was on our goal line, they scored quite easily. Jordy Gibson and that left-hand side where Sam Wilde was, they were wearing dinner jackets and we couldn't get near them. And, our right side defence has really got to stiffen up and fast because you will be found out. On the flip side, every time we earned field position, we looked like we could score all day. Joe Edge and Rhys Williams on that left-hand side was, phenomenal again. Joe Edge looks, an even better player than what he was before his injury. He looks the part. He looks as though he's put a bit more bulk on as well. And, Reece Williams knows where the try line is. He'll be a miss on Saturday. But second half obviously went in, and there was, some probably home truths and, a bit of honesty needed. And second half, we controlled the game. Tom Gilmore was brilliant both halves, but in general, we looked a bit more calmer and just got the job done. And defensively, we stiffened up. So in the end, a professional end to the afternoon. But if you perform like that against a full strength Toulouse side, which, looking at the squad they've just named, they are full strength, it's going to be a very difficult afternoon.
Yeah, and of course it does. That win over Crusaders does get Widnes through to the next round of the Challenge Cup. The draw is taking place on Saturday. I think it's during half-time of the St Helens Salford match, which is live on BBC Two on Saturday. I think at the same time Widnes are playing, actually. And judging by the squad that Salford have announced, the cup draw might be the most interesting thing that happens during that coverage. What do you think the hope is for the draw, Mike? Is it, Warrington, Wigan, Saints at home? Is that what Widnes want, or is it something else? Is it a winnable game? Obviously, there's 5 championship teams still in. I think Oldham, Featherstone, Batley, Widnes, and Bradford. What do you think people want?
I think you want down at the DCBL, don't you? A Wigan, a Saints, a Leeds, a Warrington, a Lee. Maybe not Lee because we played them in recent times a couple of years ago. But you want the atmosphere, you want the crowd, you want the feel of a Super League afternoon, even though, we are a championship outfit. I think that is the dream. I think, if you was to get a favourable draw, realistically, that's just an extra game to get that tie. You don't really want that extra game to get there because it's all right. You can argue another game, it's more revenue for the club, but it's also, we're thin on the ground, losing Lewis Hall now as well, which looks to be, a bad one. And Jack Owens and Ince and Sumner, they're still out. It's another game where you're potentially going to pick up injuries. And, at the moment, that's an absolute no-no. So for me, yeah, a home tie against one of the big Northwest clubs would probably be the way to go for me. And if we're being honest, it's probably what Alan and the players want as well.
Yeah, and in terms of cup competitions, I don't think Widnes are making, or certainly Alan Coleman's not making any secret that they do want to get to Wembley this year in the 1895 Cup. And so there'll be games to play in that. What is it now? I think it's the last 16, isn't it, that you enter that? So, you've got to play a couple of games to get to Wembley. Widnes have got Hunslet away in the first round of that. And I wanted to mention it because the ticket prices are an absolute scandal, mate. It's on Sunday, the 2nd of March. And the price, not being to Hunslet for a few years, Widnes haven't played there for a few years. Of course, they'll be playing there twice this year because Hunslet are in the Championship. Adults are £20, concessions are £15. Under 16s are free, which is great. But on the day, £25 on the day and £20 concession. Absolute. I mean, I'm fortunate because I'll probably be working, so I won't have to pay. But I feel sympathy for anyone who has to pay those prices to watch part-time rugby league, and I sometimes wonder the logic behind it from clubs. Especially a cup match like that where Widnes are having to play there twice this season. Widnes generally take a decent number compared to other teams. I think pricing it in that way is probably going to put a portion of people off.
100%. It's ludicrous. It's madness. It's poor. We've just had a weekend of the Challenge Cup where I was a bit skeptical going into it, seeing amateur teams playing Super League teams, but people come out in numbers. The Challenge Cup, it was a dying thing. It was, attendances was suffering for something so prestigious in our sport. And the weekend just gone, Westall, 3 stands at Hull KR, buzzing full. I think 4,500 at Whitehaven with Warrington. I think there was 3,000 at Workington, against Lee on Friday. The list went on. And then, then you see them ticket prices, and it's almost like the buzz and the the good traction and momentum that was generated from that weekend. It's kind of, it's been popped like putting a pin in a balloon, and it's like you say, Widnes for Hunslet, if for a like a championship side in Widnes, it's one of the biggest followings that you could get, probably aside, maybe Bradford, because they're more local, and you want to surely pack that stadium out as much as possible. And yeah, for me, I don't understand it at all, and yeah.
Yeah, so that game is in, well, it's 2 weeks now, isn't it? Widnes are at Toulouse this weekend, then it's Sheffield at home, and then it's that Hunslet away game in the 1895 Cup as Widnes look to progress in that. Right, let's look ahead to this Toulouse game. So we're joined this week by Steve Brady, who is otherwise known on Twitter as Catalan Media, and he's going to give us the inside track on things in France. Steve, for those who don't know of you, just tell us a little bit about your background and how you ended up becoming a self-appointed oracle of French Rugby League.
Thanks, yeah. Some people who don't know me might be surprised to hear a very strong Wigan accent. I'm not French at all. We moved out to live near Perpignan 8 years ago after visiting the place and watching Catalans and loving the lifestyle. So yeah, we set ourselves up doing some. So I was a journalist anyway. We set ourselves up writing match reports and bits and bobs of news about Catalan Dragons. Then we spread into kind of Toulouse and more general French rugby league. We fell in love with French rugby league, and we thought we could do a little bit, and myself and my wife, just to promote commercially and media-wise. And we've loved every minute of it. It's been a wonderful experience, and the more we learn about French rugby, the more besotted we are with it. And yeah, I'm renowned for being pushy with French rugby league and a bit bolshy and very very combative with some of the duller Yorkshire minds who sometimes don't necessarily get the positivity that we believe the French game brings in general. So yeah, we're real big cheerleaders for the French game, and we'll continue to do so as long as we can, James. And thanks for inviting us today. We're currently stuck in a hotel in Limoges, which is beautiful. Might be a little bit echoey this recording, but yeah, if you fire away with anything you'd like to ask us, we can fill you in on anything. We'll do the very best.
I do believe Widnes, the team, are flying into Limoges ahead of the game this weekend. I think they're flying into there on Friday morning, and then it's a good few hours, I think, from there, is it? To Toulouse?
Yeah, kind of 400 miles away. Well, 400 kilometres away. So it's a bit of a drive between the two, but lovely little village. It's a fantastic place. We're just off down to watch the Wigan League game at the Café de Land, which is, as you know, an Irish bar right in the centre, near the cathedral in the centre of Limoges. So we're off to go and do that before moving back down to real southern France, down to the Perpignan area where we live later on tomorrow. So for the Catalan games, it's a big game, the Brutus tomorrow. But of course, you'd like to talk about Widnes and Toulouse at Stade Ernest Wallon. Bit of a tricky one for you guys. It's the baptism of fire, a real tough opening game for your fellas. But I think Toulouse are just so pleased to get one. They've always been away for like the first 3 rounds of the last 10 years. So they're particularly pleased. And particularly that it's a club like Widnes. It's going to be a great game. And there's a lot to look forward to about it.
Yeah, I think there's probably a little bit of a feeling around Widnes that it's probably the best time to play Toulouse. I don't know what your perception of that is, Steve, where, obviously we see Toulouse's results at the start of the season don't always appear to be as good as they are later on in the year.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, obviously, like all clubs, they've got financial difficulties. Just to get through in the Championship is a miracle every year. Every club that succeeds deserves a trophy themselves. But particularly Toulouse, with the unique financial arrangements that they've got to pay to travel, obviously, to England. But for the past 10 years, unbelievably, they've also paid for visiting teams to come and RFL officials, etc. Quite how they do it, nobody knows because they haven't got the biggest crowds. It's a minor miracle that they managed to do that. So yeah, they do struggle early doors in seasons because they don't have the strongest squads. They haven't got the kind of fancies that they believe compete at the top regularly. They rely a lot on local homegrown players, and which, for me, is one of the big successes of the clubs. They've just launched a brand new uh, multi-purpose training centre. Cost quite a lot of money, which has pulled all the club together. They've got obviously junior teams, reserve teams in the French Championship. I think it's obvious that they haven't got the money to buy top line NRL stars to fill in like Catalan Dragons does. And they do suffer early doors. So I think, you've got a good chance tomorrow. And at the season launch media day, I put that to Sylvan Hules. I said, so you've trimmed the squad, Sylvan. Probably because of financial reasons, you've got rid of a lot of senior salaries, and it's a very young, very lean, and fast-looking side this year. I think through necessity, through financial uh, restraints. But I think he might surprise people because I said that a lot of people are expecting Toulouse to struggle, particularly away. You struggle early in the season. Your away games, you don't catch up to speed until it starts warming up a little bit more up down here, kind of like April, May. And he just burst into laughter. He said that's my secret weapon. I love people thinking that about us. He doesn't agree at all whatsoever. He said he's quite proud of his squad, whether it's financial reasons or not. He's pleased. They've trimmed it. They've got rid of some really older players, and they've stuck with some of the real young quality guys they've been grooming. Ollie Ashall-Bott still there, as you well know from his past with Widnes. He's quite a exceptional player. The building, the pace of the kids and the young guys around him from full back. So yeah, I think you're quite right, James. To play them in game one, you've got a better chance of beating them. So yeah, all the very best with it, and we'll see how it goes on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I was speaking to a player yesterday, and there's a lot of talk around the Championship this season because there's not necessarily a standout team that we've seen as in previous years. Obviously, Wakefield ran away with it last year. Obviously, people are talking about Bradford and York and teams like that, but Toulouse always seem to get a little bit forgotten, partly because sometimes you're not quite sure where they're up to with recruitment because, obviously they're in France and you don't hear the same murmurs as you do over here. I know that they've lost Ryan Rivette, who was the halfback, I think, last year. I think Anthony Marion's expected to be playing at standoff, I think. But is Toulouse still feeling that they are one of the strongest teams? Is winning the comp the realistic goal for them?
It's like a couple of years ago, Sylvan, when the IMG greatness came in. Sullivan thought they'd done enough. He said, as a coach, I can only train these players and get them fit and shape them up with a game plan to win games. He said, I can't get them over that final barrier. And I see his frustration with that, really, because for whatever the gradings are, they just don't seem to be crossing that Rubicon. And it's quite sad, really, because I think they invest more. And you're quite right, out of sight, out of mind. People don't see what they're doing behind the scenes. They've got an awful lot of work going in the community. They've got kids teams going from the under fives all the way through to senior level at reserve. They're in the French Championship. It's a really busy club, and it takes a lot of running. And I think Sylvan is frustrated that they probably don't get that respect, but at the same time, it gives him that little edge. He gives that. The surprise value is there. So I think some of these kids now, everybody was surprised when Ryan Rivett didn't turn up for training and more so Sylvan Hules and the club itself, because I think they expected him to be there. He's a 21-year-old cracking young kid who had a great season last year. Yeah, they were very fond of him, a very kind of a hippie, kind of easygoing, lovely young man. But he decided to marry his girlfriend and go back to the back into Australia. And unfortunately, left them high and dry. So yeah, Anthony Marion has studied. He's not a standoff, and Cedric Garcia, the club's sports directors, informed me that they will be signing a standoff, but they're just not going to rush into it. They were left in a state of shock with Rivet not being there. He was the choice alongside Jake Shorrocks to run the halves again this year, and it's left them in the lurch. So you probably could capitalise on that on Saturday, Widnes, because I don't think Anthony Marion would choose to wear number 6 at the club. Brilliant player as he is, and he's been elevated to captain for the first time. He's very proud of that. He's not a natural 6, and we'll see. We saw that in the friendly game against Catalan Dragons. It was quite obvious, and I think you'll see that in the Widnes game. That's if you can see it, because Toulouse announced this week they were going to put all the home games on YouTube, and then swiftly backtracked a little bit to say that, hang on a bit, it's not for English people. You'd need to be in France to watch it. It's kind of geo-blocked. So you guys, some of the Widnes fans who couldn't make it, I thought they could have watched the game live, but it's against the rules, so they can't do that unless they have clever ways of getting around, TV geo-blocking the game.
Well,
and I'm not going into that online.
Well, Widnes, the club are actually broadcasting it at the Widnes ground at the stadium, so it's a sold out event. Actually, they've been selling tickets to watch the game via a stream. So I presume they've got. Unfortunately, I'm unable to attend, so I don't think I'll be able to watch it at all unless, like you say, I can find a way around it. I must admit, we've talked about it on this podcast a few times. I am surprised that they've not figured out over the past 10, 15 years a way of monetizing the French games in terms of, I'm sure there'd be Widnes fans and fans of every club who would pay to watch their team's game when they're playing Toulouse if they're not able to travel. So, it was a short-lived excitement when they announced that all the games were on YouTube. But
it's an obvious one, James. I totally agree with you, mate. It's an obvious one for Catalans and Toulouse because not everybody can afford to travel to France once, sometimes twice with the Toulouse and cup games. So it is an obvious one, but I don't think with the Sky deal there's any, certainly in Super League for the Catalans, there's any room for manoeuvre there that wouldn't allow any commercial gain for individual games. Championship-wise, I think we can do the same with the RFL. The rules of the RFL do not allow them to sell them individually. They screened it on regional TV last year via Occitanie, which is kind of a Bordeaux-based production company TV. And it is regional, and I don't think they got the numbers, the viewers that they thought they'd get. And I think it's going to be more cost effective because Toulouse themselves financed that last year. It's going to be a lot cheaper to stick it on YouTube. And we'll see what the quality's like and who's doing the commentary, etc. But there are ways around it, and obviously you can't broadcast that information because people know these days are pretty savvy online to get stuff, certainly on YouTube. So there are ways, and I'm sure people will find those ways to do it. Obviously, us in France, we can watch it. It's kind of 2.5 hours for us to travel to Toulouse. So sometimes we can't make every single game, particularly if Catalans are playing the day before or day after. So it's good for us being Frenchies, or so-called faux Frenchies. We can watch it, and there must be some kind of way. But I love what Widnes have done there. That's a great idea, I think, because they keep saying it. Some clubs wonder where the value is of French clubs. That is a great initiative for your Widnes themselves to sell tickets, etc. Get a bit of an atmosphere going in the game. So good luck with that. Are you going to that, James, at all?
I'm not. I don't know if you are, Mike. But no, I'm away this week, which is part of the reason I'm not going to Toulouse. I'm in the Lakes this weekend and on a pre-arranged holiday. So unfortunately, I'm not going. But it's interesting you say about the streaming because I know that some of the other clubs are looking at streaming themselves. So I don't know whether there might be some movement in that commercial element at some point. Obviously, all the clubs have to film the games anyway for the doctor. Whether it'll be the same. Whether that's what Toulouse are going to be providing on their YouTube, the same.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me, James. I don't think they're going to throw a fortune at it. They haven't got that kind of money to do it. And you look even at Catalans there, that's a very successful, commercially successful, quite a rich club in comparison to a lot of clubs in Super League. They can't get any money out of TV. They can't. They give it free to L'Equipe, which is the sports bible of France. They give coverage free away to them. I say Catalans are doing this is the RFL who obviously control the rights, TV rights. So it's going to be free on L'Equipe for all French people, geo-blocked again. Super League coverage of all Catalans home and away games this year. But there's no money in it. They can't get the money out of it, and they give it to a Catalan company based in Barcelona, TV3, which is quite a popular Catalan-based television station. It's all Sky's feeds, but with different commentary. Obviously, Catalan language commentary for the Catalan coverage. And we've got Esteban Rania on L'Equipe, who's up and coming Brian Carney type. He's a young guy, but he's very excitable. For the championship, you'd think the rules would be a bit more relaxed, I suppose, because that kind of money, that commitment, doesn't filter down to the clubs as much. But as of now, I don't think Toulouse can make anything out of sticking that on YouTube unless they get some sponsorship or advertising around it. I'm not aware of that yet. But for me, James, like you said, that's got to be a future. It's the obvious situation for the French clubs to give fans in England who just can't get over an opportunity to watch the game. They shouldn't pay a $5 or a $10 just to watch the team play, wouldn't they?
Yeah, for sure. Going back to Toulouse, was there an expectation or that they would be in Super League this season? Was in France or in Toulouse, did they expect to maybe get the nod in the IMG rankings?
Yeah, there was an expectation till half time at Wakefield in the grand final. I went to that game. What a grim night, a grim. Not for Wakefield, and congratulations to another fantastic season. Fully deserved it. But I spoke to Silver after the game. He said it's the worst game they've played under him. That's the worst they've ever played. And then while he congratulated Wakefield, said that, we weren't going to beat anybody that day. Just something got hold of them, a bit of a blaze. It was a really grim, cold and dank Yorkshire evening, full of celebration for Wakefield. I just don't think they got going at all. So, yeah, the expectation was good because it's a good season. They had a real positive season. And, they looked capable of doing it, but at half time, that was it. They kind of capitulated and it was a landslide score there. Yeah, there is belief. They believe in themselves massively. And I think under this new chairman, Olivier Dubois, is very young and charismatic young businessman in the centre of Toulouse there. He's got connections and contacts, and they just recorded something like £1.8 million corporate sponsorship this year, which is good for that's 1.8 million euros. That's got to be good for a championship side. It's just they can't really convert the public of Toulouse. Surviving on like 1,800, 2,000 crowds isn't enough really to finance what they're trying to do, particularly with their unique commitments that they have to meet. But the expectation is there. To answer your question, James, every year I think they believe in themselves. There's a massive confidence at the club. When you go down there, you can't help but be filled with buoyancy because what they're doing is almost like a miracle every week. It's Toulouse is rugby union crazy. It's the biggest rugby union team club in the world. It's Stade Toulousain, sure, Stade as well, along with the Toulouse Olympique, and so the chances of creating a successful rugby league team alongside that virtually zero. So they're performing miracles every week, and they work alongside. Their offices, they share offices next door to each other with Stade Toulousain, and I think they're quite friendly, kind of at executive level, and the players mix and mingle. But quite clearly, Stade Toulousain are not going to be happy if rugby league takes over rugby union in Toulouse, which is a long way away. But yeah, expectations at that club every single year because they perform these miracles. I just think they get used to it, and I think they think every year they're going to win this title, and they're going to get up into Super League. Whether the authorities and the way they calculate the numbers and the bits in the box will go along with them and we'll actually get into Super League now because I think it's probably more difficult now for Toulouse than ever with the gradings. I think we all saw with Salford's shenanigans and how you could just throw any kind of business plan. I think Bradford Bulls have got the nod from a lot of people, even with the Odsal Stadium. I think Toulouse are going to find it very difficult to get the gradings that they need. They've got a great stadium, etc. Even if they win the title, seem to be always just pegged back a little bit. I think they're scared. Some clubs in Super League are quite scared of having a second French team with the expenses that they believe it incurs. So while they've got the expectations, I think it's going to be more difficult than ever for Toulouse to make that jump.
Yeah, but I mean, I suppose in some ways, if they win I know there's only, is it 0.25 of a point for for winning the championship. Maybe that might be something that swings it in their favour. I'm sure maybe Bradford are thinking the same. Widnes, are even behind them in terms of the points. Widnes have got a lot of good things, but then are short in some areas. And like you say, it's a bit frustrating from a fan point of view when no matter how well you perform on the pitch, it doesn't feel like you're ever going to get close enough to get into Super League. But I suppose winning the championship in its own right would be an achievement. We'll let you go soon, Steve. But just a final one about the match this weekend, the Toulouse Widnes match. It's a big pitch. You mentioned Ollie Ashore-Bott suits someone like him. What do you expect to see from the game in the context of it being the first one for both teams?
I think obviously they've gone for youth, speed, and fitness. And Sylvain is a very charismatic, typical French flamboyant coach who wants to just score tries from any part of the pitch. We know that about Toulouse. It'll be no different this year. It's a more French team, a younger team, so there may be a little more risk taking, throwing the ball about like Tony Gigot of old, Calandrelli, this kind of like crazy French way that they once and then you throw 9 other balls into the stand. I think we'll see a lot more. I think more erratic, kind of creative play, which the French supporters like, and I think Sylvain loves it. So unpredictable is one word to say. It's going to be an exciting game tomorrow. It's a difficult one. The first game for any club, particularly Widnes travelling abroad, is difficult to read anything into. But it'll be entertaining. That's the only thing I can guarantee. It ain't going to be boring. And those fans who are watching it on that live stream, Widnes, going to enjoy the game. And I think, I think you're right. Catching them on the first game of the season, it's your best chance. So my only prediction for Saturday is going to be a good game to watch. It's going to be warm and sunny, warmish for this time of year. So I think at top of the pitch, which is a fantastic pitch there anyway, kind of performance with a lot of tries and a lot of points. That's the only thing I can predict, really.
Brill. Well, Steve, we appreciate your insight. Nice to speak to you, and we'll speak to you again very soon. Widnes against Toulouse then, as we talked about there, perhaps a good time for Widnes to play Toulouse. The Toulouse squad, they've got Ollie Ashore-Bott, as we talked about, Paul Ulberg, Ruben Rennie, Mathieu Gisami, Paul Marchant, Jake Shorrocks, Lambert Belmas, Callum Gay and the Scotland international, James Roumanos, Maxime Stefani, Dom Peyrou, formerly of St Helens, Anthony Marion, Baptiste Rodriguez, wonderful name, Joe Cater, Joe Breverton, who's been at Toulouse for a good few years now, Rob Butler, who had a bit of a spell at Warrington, Benjamin Laguerre, Greg Richards, another former St Helens man, and Robin Brochon and Rail Scoundry. I've probably butchered some of them pronunciations, but that's probably as strong as Toulouse could expect to be. They have lost Ryan Rivette that we talked about, the Australian halfback that played for them last year. He decided not to come back and play for them this year, which is a blow for them. The Widnes squad has been named. We're recording a bit late. Well, I guess because the game's on Saturday, the squad's out a bit earlier than normal, and we're recording a bit later, so it's a double whammy in terms of us getting this in. There's no Rhys Williams, who is a teacher, so he couldn't get the time off work to travel on Friday. As I mentioned, the team are going out Friday morning. Lewis Hall, as Mike mentioned, has suffered an injury. He drops out. There is a new face in Alfie Johnson, the Warrington winger, who's actually a rugby union convert, who scored a couple of tries in that friendly game. Didn't he? He's probably just a like-for-like replacement for Rhys Williams, you think, Mike?
Yeah, I think obviously we announced that before the squad, and there's probably a couple of people, head scratching with, obviously if you was at the Crusaders game in Colwyn Bay, you seen Owens come off. Everybody was expecting maybe to see Taylor Ray come into the mix, but yeah, obviously the announcement of the squads, points to obviously Williams not playing for the reasons that you said. So I'd imagine he just slots in where Williams comes out.
Yeah, I mean, Adam Jones he might put his hand out up. Do you think maybe to play on the wing? Do you think he's a possible selection?
I think he could end up playing centre, James, to be honest, because if Fleming's dropping to fullback, I'd be very surprised Jack playing this weekend. If Fleming drops to fullback, that leaves you Joe Edge in the centre, doesn't it? So Adam might be appearing there, potentially.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've got Max Roberts as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, so Aidan Doolan, the trialist hooker, he's in the squad as well. So it's Jack Owens, who Mike doesn't expect to play, Matt Fleming, Joe Edge, Mike Butt, Joe Lyons, Tom Gilmore, Dan Murray, Martin Riley, Rodri Lloyd, Danny Langtree, Ryan Lannon, Matty Fozzard, Liam Bent, Liam Kirk, Max Roberts, Nick Gregson, Dec Patton, Gavin Benyon, Adam Jones, Aidan Doolan, and Alfie Johnson. The team fly out Friday to Limoges, which is a 3-hour trek at least to Toulouse. But I understand that it's a trip that the players quite like to make. It's a nice sort of team building opportunity at the start of the year. And as we've said, the theory is that if you play Toulouse at the start of the season, you've perhaps got a better chance of coming away with a result than maybe if you play them in the height of the summer.
Yeah, well, to be honest, James, that was kind of when the fixtures first come out. That was kind of my opinion of it, and to some level, like what Steve was saying, it is true. We've probably had more games under our belt than what Toulouse will have. That's for sure, and match fitness. But at the same time, what comes with that is injuries. And we've picked up a fair few already. Jordan Johnson won't be playing. Ryan Ince, Williams not available. Jack Owens, and you look at Toulouse's fully strength team and you're like, yeah, I think I'm not as confident as what I was when the fixtures come out, put it that way.
Toulouse have won the last 6 against Widnes, which included, if you recall, that one at Widnes towards the end of last season, where I think Widnes were winning 12-0 at half-time and got beat 18-12 in that run of games where Widnes basically just needed one win to make the playoffs, and they had to wait till the very last game of the season against Barrow to do it. So Toulouse have got the nod over Widnes in recent times. In fact, the only time... two times. Sorry, the only time in this era that Toulouse have been in the championship that Widnes won there was in 2019, just before, I think it was like the week before administration, wasn't it, where Widnes went over there and won 36-24. It'd certainly be maybe calling it a statement victory is a bit of a bold one at this stage, but it would certainly be a real positive way to start the season if Widnes can come away with the points.
100%. I think it would be a bold statement by us because we're not going there full strength whatsoever. We're having to put plasters in a couple of places and, relying on dual reg already so early. I think, it would take a hell of an effort. The Toulouse pack, one thing they're going to be is fit and physical. Players like Belmas, he causes problems. He's a right nuisance. And our pack's really got to stand up to that. For 80 minutes with a full-time team, I think the two times in recent times we've played them at home, they've pipped us on the hooter. So you've got to put an 80-minute performance in, certainly in the middle. But then I think for me, the key, if we're to get something out the game, is Dec Patton's long kicking game. It's got to be on point. You can't be giving Toulouse cheap early, meters off carries out of backfield.
Yeah, Toulouse lost their first home game last season against Swinton, although that was early April when they played that one. They actually started pretty well the season before last, which of course was the first one back after they'd been in Super League. But you'd expect Toulouse will be there or thereabouts at the end of the season. Just looking at their record, they drew with Bradford last year at home and then lost to York. So they only lost the 2 games at home last season. So although we talk about it being a potential opportunity, it is still a very, very tough assignment to start the season with.
100%, and I think I'm right in saying as well, James, they convincingly beat Wakefield at home last season. So, that says it all. Really, it is a tough ask, and it's a tough ask when you're fully fit, and you've got everybody to pick from. I think where I worry a little bit for Toulouse when the season gets going properly and they pick up a couple of injuries. Have they got that apart from obviously they need a standoff? They're not in a world where they can dual reg or loan players easily, and they've got a smaller squad. And are they going to be as aggressive in the transfer market as some of the teams like York, Featherstone, Bradford, who are renowned for strengthening mid-season? I think that's where I probably see them maybe tripping up a couple of times. And, we have seen in the past as well, when they travel over here, they are a complete different beast as to what they are at home.
Yeah, just looking, they finished second last season. They ended the season with, they went on a run of 6 straight wins up until the grand final where they lost 36-0 away at Wakefield. Of course, Wakefield heavy favourites. It was played at Wakefield, but they actually went on a big 12-game unbeaten run in the middle of the season, 11 wins and a draw to lose. So they probably don't get the credit they perhaps deserve, and that's probably because they've not quite been able to get over the line. I mean, they obviously had that one season in Super League, but other than that, they almost consistently finish second and then don't end up winning. I suppose they need to. I suppose from their point of view, they'll be trying to put that right this season and get it done and get it over the line. But we'll see how it goes this weekend. Now, I'm going to throw this on you, Mike. I've literally just decided this now. We're going to have a go between us. We're going to have a bit of a head-to-head, I've decided. And we're going to try and predict. We're going to predict the championship games every week. We'll keep a monitor on it, and we'll decide at the end of we'll figure out at the end of the year which one of us is better. And other people feel free to chip in and slate us for our predictions or add your own predictions.
Do you know what? When these go out as well, actually, especially on the Facebook page, it'd be good for people to get involved. To see some predictions as well.
So I don't like predicting Widnes games at all, but because we're going to do this, I'm going to have to. So let's start then. Toulouse Widnes, what are you calling, Mike?
Sorry, Alan Coleman, but I can't. It's got to be a Toulouse win.
How many? Are we just gonna go who's gonna win, or are we gonna have scores? Does it make it too difficult to say? Let's do a margin, or are we just gonna go straight win, lose or draw?
To lose by 16.
Oh, he's ambitious, Mike. He wants to do this. We might get bored of this after the first few weeks.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes, how well we're doing, and then we might stop that.
I'll go Toulouse by 4.
Okay.
Right, the other games this week. Barrow Hunslet.
Who's at home in that one, James?
It's Barrow's at home. I'll read the home teams first. So I'm going to go Barrow by 18.
Barrow by 8, because I think it's Hunslet's first game, so I think they're going to be full of enthusiasm.
Bradford London.
Bradford by 40.
I've put Bradford by 36 there. Yeah. Featherstone Doncaster.
Featherstone by 16.
I think it'll be close, that one. I'll go Featherstone by 4. I think Doncaster will give them a game. This is quite an interesting one. Oldham against York. Obviously, Oldham, lots of people talking about them. York tend to start seasons slowly, but whether that might not be the case anymore under Mark Applegarth.
Well, this could be this could be this is a massive yardstick for Oldham because they're going to be gunning for this, or they should be, because it's round one, and the Mark Applegarth last year with different proposition under him. I'm gonna back York. I'm gonna go York by 10.
I'm gonna go York by.
Game.
I said I'm gonna go York by 2.
Yeah, cracking game though.
And then the final one, Sheffield against Halifax. It's Kyle Eastman's first championship game in charge of Halifax, and it's Craig Lingard's first championship game in charge of Sheffield.
See, Halifax have been on fire in pre-season, and a lot of the players are fit. I'm going to go Sheffield by 10, but that could be a little... If there's a shock of the weekend, it could be that one. But I'll go Sheffield by 10.
I'm going to go Sheffield by 16. Right, so we'll do that every week. I think we might get bored of doing the margins. We might just do the winners in future weeks. I suppose that's the beauty of the Championship. You can't do it in Super League because most Super League games are that predictable. You can call the winner anyway, so you have to put the margin in to make it a bit of a game. But we'll see how that rolls over the season. Where are you going to be watching the game on Saturday, Mike? Are you going to be Googling certain things, or are you at the Bridge Suite?
I'll be in the thick of it in the Bridge Suite. So it'd be good to see everyone. Hopefully the streaming is a success. A great opportunity to make extra money. I'm really looking forward to it. How about yourself, James?
Yeah, well, I'll be trying to circumnavigate the geo blocking on YouTube. I think sounds like my only solution. Failing that, I'll have to watch St Helens batter Salford's reserves and then watch the cup draw at half time.
What? I know it's off topic, but what an embarrassment that is. And I've seen your tweet before. Is it BBC as well?
Yeah, it's live on BBC Two. I think BBC have got a game live this week and next week. I think it's Lee that are on. I forget who they're playing, but Lee are on next week, I think. So yeah, a bit of a shame that's going to be a bit of a... Well, I mean, St Helens will be hoping it's a walkover because, St Helens will have real problems if they can't beat that Salford team. Anyway, thanks everyone for joining us as ever. The championship season's back, so we're in the thick of it, and hopefully you'll stick with us for the season, and hopefully we'll bring some interesting insight to you throughout the year. Thanks to Steve Brady for his contributions to this podcast. Please do subscribe to the podcast and leave a review or a rating if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube Radio. Don't forget to hit us up on the Widnes Rugby League fans Facebook page as well. But from myself, James Gordon, and Mike Parsons for this week, that's goodbye for now.